Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Tanya Darden. I am the Communications Chair of the Management Faculty of Color Association, MFCA. And today we are taking some time to get to know our new executive board members. And so first up is Akwasi Opoku-Dakwa.
Perfect.
Great. All right. Um, Associate Professor at Pittsburgh University, University of Pittsburgh.
Duquesne University.
Duquesne.
Yes, which is in Pittsburgh.
Which is in Pittsburgh. I'm so sorry.
No
Duquesne
worries.
University. All right. And so today we're going to learn a little bit more about Akwasi, uh, his journey to his PhD, a little bit about what kind of led him to want to join MFCA's executive board. That might have been more of a lot of nudging from other people, but that's okay too. And then a little bit about him personally. So Akwasi, how did you end up pursuing your PhD?
It's a little bit of a long story. It's not something I had always wanted to do. I started off, I did my bachelor's in civil engineering, and I always wanted to be a civil engineer. I had the opportunity. So I was born in Ghana, raised in Ghana for most of my childhood. I had the opportunity to come to the US for college, and I studied civil engineering. And then when I was done, I wanted to stay for a while. And so when I was doing my job search, it was it's hard to get into civil engineering as an international student. And so I pivoted and I went into IT consulting, and then I kind of got into project management. So I wound up in the business world. So then I went, after about 6 years, I went to business school. And while I was in business school, I took organizational behavior, and I also met a colleague who was very interested in organizational behavior. And I was just fascinated by the topic. And I think it was probably because, my background was so technical, and I had explored other things, but I never even took one psychology class. And so that was very new to me. And I really enjoyed it. And I always thought to myself, I'd really like to learn more about that. And, hopefully take that knowledge back home and work with organizations and such. And this would have been in the early 2000s. And so it was always in the back of my head. But then I was working. And in 2010, I made a career change because at that time I was working in South Africa, and my wife and I decided to move back to the US because we started having kids. And my first kid, he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, which is, for those who are not familiar, it's any kind of brain damage that occurs before birth. And the severity can be very broad. It's relatively mild, but it's non-trivial. So he's very functional. He's in regular school, but he can't write with the pens, and he has to use a computer because his hand will shake too much, stuff like that. And we thought the US was the best place for him, and so we came back, and I quit my job, and I wasn't getting any younger. My wife was like, "If you want to do something with this OB, then maybe now's the time." So I looked at programs and wound up in a PhD program at Rutgers. And that's kind of what brought me to where I am now.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. I too have a technical background and pivoted later in life after I figured out the technical part was a lot easier to me than the people part. That was the challenging part. So very interesting. So what made you want to join the MFCA executive board?
It was just that. Well, so I mean, we were talking before the call that I just got tenure this summer.
Yes.
And so, during my tenure process, I really wasn't doing any extracurricular activities. And so now that that's done, I'm just looking for opportunities to get more involved in and get back to the organizations that I like and I care about and that I benefited from.
Yeah.
And so MFCA was high on the list. And so they were interested, I guess, in looking. I mean, at the time, the treasurer and the secretary were the open positions. So, yeah.
Yeah. And we're happy to have you. And you are doing an amazing job already. It was, very lucky to have you on the board. What's your area of research?
So it's corporate responsibility and ethics.
Okay.
Yeah, I started off doing corporate responsibility. My dissertation was about how corporate volunteering affects engagement. And so because I was studying that during my PhD program, I was asked to teach business ethics.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started teaching business ethics, and I found it very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been gravitating more and more towards business ethics in my research. So my papers tend to be in one of those two areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, what's the thing that you're most passionate about your research right now? Like what's driving you?
Um, I I mean, I really enjoy learning myself. And
Mm-hmm.
so this field allows me to do that. And so I enjoy my own getting better at my understanding for the benefit of my students through my research. That's kind of how I think about my research. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, it's also great to see when your research helps other people in terms of how they're thinking about things in their research or whatever else it might be.
Yeah.
So I find that very gratifying. And then, as a teacher, anytime you get that positive feedback from students, it's always pleasant. And, I do feel like I am having the opportunity to have a positive impact on them and help them in terms of their, understanding the workplace that they're going into.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those things for me are, help me get up in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, if you had to, if you had to pick a project that you're working on right now that um you feel like is, and it's hard to pick between our babies, but that you feel like, this is going to have an impact. Like this is one that I'm really excited about. What would it be that you're working on right now?
It's hard to say. I'm working on one project with a colleague where we're doing a meta-analysis of the predictors of firm performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not my typical area.
Mm-hmm.
But my co-author, he's a meta-analysis guy and he's an entrepreneurship guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that will be interesting. It's still pretty early stages.
Yeah.
I also have a project of mine that has unfortunately been on the back burner for a long time, but
Mm-hmm.
I hope to start it next summer, which is interviewing employees about how they define responsibility in their work.
Mm.
And I've been wanting to do this. I have the IRB, so I've given it some thought and whatnot. But I feel like there's a real shortage of that kind of research. All the research seems to be about how managers and sort of at a very high level think about responsibility at an
Mm-hmm.
organizational level, almost as if it's not done by the people who are doing the
People.
work. And I think it's really well. I think it's important to understand how employees think about responsibility in their work. I think it's becoming more and more important because we're moving into this phase where corporations and the things they produce have so much impact
Yeah.
uh, on society that it would be good if all of us individually are thinking about like what's our contribution to that. So I'm curious to know how. I mean, I know what my ideas are about that,
Yeah.
but I'm curious to interview employees and see what their ideas are, how they think about it.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So if we switch gears and talk about what you're most passionate about outside of work, like what is it that what brings you joy when you get, not that you get rejected, but I get rejected from from different publications, different
We're
journals. What brings you joy?
Yeah, we're all getting rejected, Tanya. Trust
Right.
me on that one. Definitely family.
Yeah.
I have three kids, 15, sorry, 17, 15, and 13.
Hmm.
So they are very interesting ages.
Yeah.
And so they're cool to hang around. They're cool to just watch and be a fly on the wall and see what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're cool to enjoy their successes. And then, all family is the people that you hang out with and they know you and you know them. And so
Yeah.
that's quality time. And I really appreciate that. So yeah, I'm definitely very much just enjoying simple things.
Yeah.
In that phase of life, I'm just enjoying simple things right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, good health and kids that are doing their thing and they're happy and they're motivated. Those things make me happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Last question. If I looked at your, I don't know, whatever you use, Spotify or your Apple playlist or whatever, what would I see? Like what's your top 3 songs?
So you sent me the questions in advance,
Uh-huh.
and I had to think about this one because I listen to a lot of music,
Uh-huh.
so much so that it's not really on rotation. It's like it's just all over the place.
Uh-huh.
But luckily, I have this app I use called Media Monkey. Some people may know.
Okay.
And it actually, it has the algorithm, so you can go and be like, all right, how many times I listen to this, one,
Right,
blah blah
right.
blah. And so very nerdy of me, but that's what I had to go do. So I went and I pulled the data, Tanya. I pulled the data just.
Right, right.
So anyway, what I've been listening to, there's a song called "Doors to More" by a guy called Kari Mateen. So one of the things I realized when I went to do this look at this data is I've been listening to a lot of soundtracks for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect it's because I listen to music while I'm working, and soundtracks are not distracting, but they can be really.
Right, right.
So I discovered him. I don't know if you've heard of the movie Really Love.
Say that again.
Really Love. It's a
Really love. I'm
African
not
American
sure.
rom-com. Yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, he did the soundtrack and it's really good. I do recommend it.
Okay.
So I discovered him there, and then he has this one song, Doors to More, that apparently I've been listening to a lot. And the second one is Heavy as the Head by Baby Rose. That's off of the Creed 3 soundtrack.
Okay.
And then Can I Believe You by the Fleet Foxes, who I just discovered, and I just happen to like that song a lot.
Oh,
So apparently
cool.
I've been listening to it. And yeah, I have a fourth one, Testify by Madison McFerrin. So it came up fourth on the list,
Uh-huh.
but I do recommend Madison. She's awesome. Bobby McFerrin?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's his daughter, and she's doing really good
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll definitely have to look these up.
Mm-hmm. I'll send
Yeah.
it
Oh,
to
that's
you.
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, look, thank you so much for taking the time to let us get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you for the
We will be
opportunity.
seeing you, in different MFCA functions and things. And I wanted, as people see you on the screen, want them to know what role you're playing and who you are. So thank you very much for taking the time.
Sure. Thank you. Look forward to working with you.
Yes. And oh no, not that.